Greetings and welcome to The Problem of Increasing Human Energy, Nikola Tesla's Vision of Science, Society, and the Future. This is taken from his book, The Problem of Increasing Human Energy, which is, I guess you'd say, a treatise of philosophy and science. That said, many of us are familiar with Tesla and his great inventions. Now let's look a little bit more into his philosophy. The wonder of life. Of all the endless variety of phenomena which nature presents to our senses, there is none that fills our minds with greater wonder than the inconceivably complex movement with which its entirety we designate as human life. Tesla begins by expressing awe at the mystery of life. Life is motion, infinitely complex and beyond full comprehension. But life's mystery unites philosophy, science, and religion, all due to the infinite complexity beyond full comprehension. So those mysteries are what unite the philosophies, science, and religion. The eternal questions. Whence does it come? What is it? Whither does it end? Does it tend? Humanity has always sought the origin, nature, and destiny of life. And these questions frame Tesla's search for the scientific solutions, because human energy is not just biological, but part of a cosmic order. Craig Carey says I could really go for a call-in show or post links if interested in a conversation. Excellent. Yeah, we could set up a call-in show. I kind of did this one here ad hoc because it was a good topic, I thought, for the weekend. Take us off from some of the real hard, dry stuff we just went over. That was actually very relevant and insightful, but this has taken us on a little different tack. But yeah, I'm going to set up a call-in show. That'd be great, and I'll probably do a community post to set up the time when it's going to be done so I can send out links and get everyone set up. All right, let's continue. So a harsh future. The sun is the past. The earth is the present. The moon is the future. From an incandescent mass we have originated, and into a frozen mass we shall turn. Merciless is the law of nature, and rapidly and irresistibly we are drawn to our doom. So science foretells eventual planetary death. That comes from Kelvin's estimate, about 6 million years. Yet Tesla insists we must not despair. Progress is still possible. And hope endures even under cosmic inevitability. Very powerful force here. So let's continue. Science as light. The cheering lights of science and art, ever increasing in intensity, illuminate our path, and marvels they disclose, and the enjoyments they offer make us measurably forget the gloomy future. So science and art illuminate human destiny. So the progress allows humanity to rise above the fear of decline, which is inevitable. And knowledge and creativity sustain collective energy. Important concept here as we go through the text. Life as motion. Though we may never be able to comprehend human life, we know certainly that it is a movement. Tesla reduces life to the universal law of motion. Every movement implies mass and force. And again, something like force is something that's unseen. We can see its effects, but we can't see it. Human life, like all nature, is governed by rhythm and law. Interesting concepts here. Let's proceed. Rhythm and law. Humanity as one body. Though free to think and act, we are held together like the stars in the firmament, with ties inseparable. Tesla stresses the interconnectedness of humanity. The pain or joy of one affects the whole. And religion and science both affirm our unity. Interesting concept. Religion and science both affirm our unity. So there is an interconnectedness. The pain or joy of one affects the whole. The formula of human energy. Human energy may be measured by half the product of a man's mass with the square of a certain hypothetical velocity. Interesting concept. Half the product of a man's mass with the square of a certain hypothetical velocity. So Tesla applies mechanics to humanity and defines progress as energy increase through mass and velocity. And progress follows natural law, not chance. So what we see in the physical laws also apply with human energy. So physical energy, human energy, both similarly, the mechanics are similarly applied. The three ways of progress. Tesla was quite fond of the number 3. To increase the human energy is equivalent to increasing this product, and there are only 3 ways possible to attain this result. The 3 solutions: 1. Increase human mass. 2. Reduce retarding forces, the resistance or dissipation. And 3. Increase the impelling force. Human advancement is scientific, not arbitrary. So there are 3 solutions for progress. Now, progress is moving forward. So moving forward into the future, we can increase human mass, populations. We can reduce retarding forces, which means becoming more efficient, less waste and dissipation, or increasing the impelling force. So how can we increase the force of progress, which he'll get onto here soon? Again, change is inevitable, but progress is optional. Therefore, these are 3 solutions for attaining human progress. And we're on to the train analogy. If 4 more locomotives are added to the train, and they are moving at the same velocity, the total energy will be increased. Okay, this is missing something here. 4 more locomotives were added to a train of 100 locomotives, it should say. So we added 4 to, let's say, of a train of 100 locomotives, but you added 100 trains, but you added 4 more locomotives to the train. If the train's moving at the same velocity, the total energy will be increased 4%. That's all, by adding 4 more locomotives if it's 100 trains long. But if they're moving at only 1/2 that velocity, the increase will amount to only 1%. So if you see what happens here, because of that velocity, there's less velocity, the improvement by adding in those 4 locomotives, even though it's not significant, it's only 4%, now it's down to 1% for adding 4 more locomotives. If they're moving at twice the velocity, though, the increase of energy will be 16%. So as he said, the square of the velocity. So if the velocity, again, it was a 4% increase, then it would be squared if they're going twice as fast. Mass alone is less important than quality and velocity. So it's not just the mass, but you're adding a locomotive that's going to be adding energy to it. And the more velocity you have, the more the quality mass can uh, be optimized, get the most efficient use. Education and enlightenment are like high velocity engines. So, as we see here, velocity it gives you a squared increase. The four locomotives just added 4%. If it's using one each locomotive and a train of 100 to make the numbers easy, that brings you to the 4% increase. But education and enlightenment are like high velocity engines. This is like doubling the speed instead of just adding four locomotives. That gives you a square. You square the increase of advancement. And advancement depends on elevating each generation above the last. So you make sure you're not going two rungs up, one rung down type of thing. Education as the key. The most important result to be attained is the education or the increase of the velocity of the mass newly added. Intellectual advancement yields the greatest human progress. Every child educated beyond the parent's level multiplies collective energy. Education accelerates humanity's motion. Key point, every child educated beyond the parent's level multiplies collective energy. So each generation should be educated beyond the previous. The dangers of vice. Whiskey, wine, tea, coffee, tobacco, and other such stimulants are responsible for the shortening of the lives of many and ought to be used with moderation. Okay. So I see what he's saying here. It's 2 points. Whiskey, wine, tea, coffee, tobacco, and other such stimulants are responsible for the shortening of the lives of many, but it also ought to be used just with moderation. So he's not saying it's forbidden. He's saying it ought to be used, but it ought to be used with moderation. And it's the overuse which leads to the shortening of lives. At least that's what I read from this quote, and that is his quote there. Vices diminish mass, reducing human energy. Moderation is wiser than absolute suppression. Okay, indeed. So there it is. And self-discipline sustains collective vitality. Self-discipline is the key, because the more people that express their self-discipline, it sustains the collective vitality, which is why America is a self-governing nation, and that sustains the collective vitality. And we're on to the greater threat. For every person who perishes from the effects of a stimulant, at least 1,000 die from the consequences of drinking impure water. Wow, so public health is more vital than personal habits. Tesla advocates sterilization and ozonation of water supplies. Now, this is going back, to the 20th century now. Purity of essentials sustains a civilization. Beautiful. Purity of essentials. Public health is more vital than personal habits. So what is more effort being done with the government? Is it more worried about people's personal habits or the public health? But the public health, according to Tesla, is more vital. All right. Let's proceed. Nutrition and diet. Vegetarianism is a commendable departure from the established barbarous diet. The barbarous diet. Tesla favored plant-based diets as efficient and healthful. Meat is the mass of smaller velocity and less useful to progress. Sustainability aligns with human advancement. Poverty and famine. Millions of individuals die yearly for want of food, thus keeping down the mass. Poverty is the greatest reducer of human energy. Feeding populations increases both health and productivity. Justice in provision sustains collective progress. A lot easier back in Tesla's day to apply those things, but too many cooks in that collective kitchen there end up being a lot of draining and inefficient use of those resources, it seems. But I digress. Fertilizing the soil. Our atmosphere contains an inexhaustible amount of nitrogen, and we and and could we but oxidize it and produce these compounds, an incalculable benefit for mankind would follow. So fertilization is a solution to global food shortage, which we saw with the Green Revolution. Tesla anticipates artificial nitrogen fixation, and science transforms nature to sustain humanity. So we've pretty much seen that happen with the Green Revolution, for better or worse. Retarding forces, gambling, business rush, and excitement are causes of much mass reduction, all the more so because the individuals concerned represent units of higher value. Wow. So the destructive habits reduce humanity's total energy. The loss of higher value individuals is especially harmful. Moral restraint preserves collective strength. So there it is. The high value individuals are lost to gambling and business rush and excitements. So that's something to consider there. There's a price to pay for everything. Now we're on to one of the most significant parts of his book here, ignorance as the greatest resistance. There can be no doubt that, of all the frictional resistances, the one that most retards human movement is ignorance. Not without reason said that man of wisdom, Buddha, ignorance is the greatest evil in the world. So that's not without any reason. That's the words of Buddha. Ignorance is the greatest evil in the world. Tesla identifies ignorance as humanity's greatest obstacle. Ignorance functions as friction, slowing civilization's progress. Ancient wisdom and modern science agree. Ignorance is the supreme evil. Ignorance limits not only individual growth, but collective advancement. And here, I believe it was Aristotle said that the only sin is ignorance, and the only unforgivable sin is willful ignorance. Now we have the remedy, knowledge and unification. The friction which results from ignorance, and which is greatly increased owing to the numerous languages and nationalities, can be reduced only by the spread of knowledge and the unification of the heterogeneous elements of humanity. So knowledge and unification reduce the greatest source of friction. Barriers of language and nationality must be overcome by shared understanding. And we're starting to see that now with a lot of digital interpreters and language translators. Universal education is humanity's most valuable investment. But modern negative forces may now rival ignorance in slowing progress. So there's modern negative forces that are so bad that they even rival ignorance, the greatest evil, in slowing progress. Consider that, the modern negative forces. Hygiene as a moral duty. Everyone should consider his body as a priceless gift from one whom he loves above all, a marvelous work of art, of indescribable beauty and mastery beyond human conception, and so delicate and frail that a word, a breath, a look, nay, A thought may injure it. Tesla elevates hygiene into a moral responsibility. Caring for one's body is reverence for life itself. Health is a sacred trust. The impelling force. The impelling force can be increased indefinitely. Unlike mass and friction, force has no fixed limit. Science and invention are humanity's ultimate driver. So there's where we get the force. Discovery is boundless. The hope, eternal. Harnessing nature. Harness the waterfalls, solar rays, wind, ocean tides. Electricity is the universal medium. Interesting, medium. Tesla anticipates renewable energy sources. Wireless power as a global solution. Here it is right there. Nature's forces are allies, not obstacles. Nature's forces are allies, not obstacles. Incredible. By the way, that tower was the one where he said it was supposed to be for communications, but it was really for worldwide power transmission. And I think it was J.P. Morgan, when he finds out, it says, damn that Tesla if he thinks he'll let the public milk my cow for free, and he ordered it to be destroyed. But the architects that had designed it had so much reverence for Tesla that they had engineered such a strong frame of this wooden structure you see here that it took them, I don't know, several detonations to finally make it collapse. Anyhow, I digress. Humanity is one destiny. The individual is ephemeral. Races and nations come and pass away, but man remains. Human destiny transcends individuals and nations. Collective progress is enduring. The unity of humanity ensures continuity. So this is some important aspects here about the destiny transcending individuals and nations. So there is that essence here of unity of humanity, but it's necessary for continuity. Otherwise, the nations and the individuals end up warring and quarreling to the point of defeating themselves. We're on to our closing reflection here. The great problem of science is, and always will be, to increase the human energy. Remember, that's a human energy towards progress. Tesla's vision was not merely technical, but moral and universal. Expand mass through health and education. So that's how we have more people, better health, hygiene, public health, and education. Reduce friction through morality and discipline. Get rid of ignorance. And amplify force through science, which we see rather easily these days. More than a century later, his challenge remains. Progress depends on how we cultivate human energy. And that brings us to the end here. Craig Carey says, ignorance and willful knowledge of it. I think I need to read all this. Yeah. The only sin is ignorance, and the only unforgivable sin is willful ignorance. So, that's what I believe it was Aristotle that said that, and I think it rings rather true. So, that said, I hope everyone found something interesting and enlightening here from the philosophy on this. I guess you could say it's a treatise on philosophy from Nikola Tesla on the problem of increasing human energy. Hope to see you all on the next one. Peace out.